Thank you for joining us. You are a part of a powerful group who recognizes that Black women's health should be at the forefront of the national conversation. We are mothers, daughters, activists, entrepreneurs, entertainers, corporate warriors, and more, who help boost the economy and often drive the national conversation. For almost 40 years, the Black Women's Health Imperative has strived to amplify our voices, help enact policy that protects us, research our issues, create programs that enhance our lives, and produce events like this one to ensure we keep the conversation going about the issues that matter to us most. So, let's get started with our program.
Welcome back, everyone. You made it to the last part of our meal planning series. Now, I know today we're not talking about meal planning, but we are going to cover a topic that makes meal planning possible. So I wanted to end our time together with the ever important topic of self-care. Today, joining me is the self-care ritualist, Dr. Y. Falami DeVoe, who is the author of the Self-Care Ritualist Journal. Welcome, Dr. Falami.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin. I am so excited to be here this afternoon. And you're right, meal planning is a part of self-care. Mm-hmm. And so I am grateful to have this opportunity as the self-care ritualist to just talk a little bit about self-care, why self-care is important, and especially as a parent. So thank you again for this opportunity. And I want us to get real today. Let's be real with talking about self-care and parenting. So I have some opportunities for us to engage in the comments. So I'm going to ask you to just remember to engage with me in the comments. Let me know where you are coming from. Where do you live? If you are wherever you are in the world, drop it in the comments section so I can see how far this particular time we have together, how far it's reaching. So thank you for this opportunity. So I'd like to share some slides, some information with you today, and then we'll have time to discuss. So remember, where do you live in the world? I actually am in Georgia. And so if you're in Georgia, drop it in the chat. If you are in California, you're in New York, wherever you are, this is community today, as every time that we get together, and you have gotten together from what I understand. So glad. Montgomery, Alabama. Hello there. I will be there on Wednesday. Looking forward to going over to Montgomery. Where else do we have? Where else are we in the world? If you're in the north, northeast, if you're in the south, southwest, where are you? Thank you, Lori. So again, I am Dr. Falami, your self-care ritualist. And so I want us to talk today about being real. So if you could share that slide with me, please, Candace. And thank you so much. Candace is going to be navigating our slide. Columbus, Ohio. Hello. Love it. I am originally from Ohio, so glad to see you in the space here today. So we're going to talk about being real and what does that mean? And first of all, let me tell you who I am. I am the self-care ritualist. And next slide, please. And I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, or I like to say Gigi. And I put here some of the folks that are part of my family. I have a very large blended family. And so that's very important too. So if any of you that are a part or have a blended family, I know. And I'll tell you a little bit why I started this journey through self-care. And as Erin said, I am the self-care ritualist. I'm here today to really ground the conversation in self-care and why it's so important as a parent. Everyone needs self-care, but most definitely our parents and caregivers. I myself have been a wife and a mother of a big blended family. And let me tell you, finding time for myself was pivotal, was very, very pivotal while I was raising my children. Now, mind you, my children are now adults and they have children as well. So it is very, very important. And so I want to talk to you about how I came to this journey. So beyond being a parent, and I'll stop right there on that slide. Beyond being a parent, I was one who had two mini strokes. And those mini strokes really was a wake up call. Now, I was a young person. I did not have any high blood pressure or anything like that that are typical for someone who might have a stroke. I actually had what is called, well, we're all born with our holes in our hearts. Mine just never closed. And so a clot traveled through my heart. Why do I tell you this? You know, sometimes life events are wake-up calls for you to slow down and to take better care of yourself. And so at the time, I also was dealing with what's called sinus tachycardia. And that's where very, very fast heartbeat. And so my doctor, the cardiologist, said, you know, you need to find a hobby. You need to figure out what to do to take care of yourself. And so I did. I started, and I'm a dancer, and I started doing dance. I started actually taking Zumba class, and I love Zumba. So if any of you are Zumba folks, you know what I mean, right? It just gets you, or for me, got me right in the right frame of mind. So I started taking Zumba. I became a Zumba instructor. And then I started looking at other modalities for taking care of myself, what are called alternative methods, such as acupuncture, massages, Reiki, sound healing. And so I did those things because I understood that not only just taking time for myself meant doing dance, but it also included other modalities. And I love them. And so I actually became a sound healer. So I'm a sound healer. So if any of you are familiar with the singing bowls, the Tibetan bowls, the gong, that's me. So I do those practices as well. So that's a part of my self-care. So again, there are many times where you as a parent might feel that I don't have time. I have to take care of everybody else. I either have a husband, partner, significant other, and it's my responsibility. But let's be real. Let's be real. You might look like this. And and this particular slide here that shares what some of you might be dealing with. Next slide, please. Does this look like you? Right? Trying to find the time and everything, the children all around, and you have a lot going on. Understood. I'm here today to invite you and to really encourage you to take the time for yourself, because many of you may be familiar. If you're not good to yourself and for yourself, you can't be good for others, right? So as a parent, we give so much. So very, 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 so very, very, very important that you give to yourself. Now, self-care has been co-opted by our society, right? Meaning self-care means taking a luxurious vacation. It means, long baths, time at the gym, etc. I'm going to share with you a different perspective around self-care, because sometimes when self-care is talked about, people say, I don't have time for that. I can't do that. It's just too much, right? But I want you to know, in order for you to be well for yourself and for everyone else, it's very important to do self-care. Next slide. So I'd like to get some comments in the comment portion here. So if you wouldn't mind, tell me, as a parent or a caregiver, How do you feel about taking time for yourself? What does that feel like? So please share your comments over here so that we can engage and talk to me. How does it feel, honestly, about taking time for yourself? I'll give you a couple moments. For me, when I was, again, had a large blended family, I felt some kind of way. And why? Because many of us might be familiar with the notion of a devil mind. A mind is a devil's workshop. You know the frame, I get kind of twisted there. A devil's mind or busy mind is the devil's workshop, something like that, right? Well, that means that many of us were taught to be productive all the time, right? Or an idle mind. There it is. An idle mind is a devil's workshop. And so we were taught to be productive. Some of you might be feeling that there's something else I should be doing. Actually, absolutely, Aaron. You should be feeling like I should be doing something else as a wife or a partner or as a mother. I should be doing something else, right? So that takes you away from taking time for yourself. I'm here to tell you again, it's so very important that to be real with your feelings and to be real with taking care of yourself. So, next slide, please. So, what does this mean to be real, Dr. Falami? Now, the Urban Dictionary, I brought out the Urban Dictionary, not Merriam-Webster's or dictionary.com. I'm coming with you to be real. So to be real is to be down or to have a grip in reality. Now, I understand that as a parent, and that's why I wanted to share with you that I'm a parent of a big blended family and have been for several years. So I get it. I understand that it can be challenging getting up early in the morning, going to bed late at night, running to practices, cooking dinner, right? That's reality. That's reality. But I want you to encourage you to take time for self-care. Next slide, please. Now, some of you are probably thinking, okay, when I hear self-care, it looks like this. As a mom, I always thought self-care would be more spa days and brunches, not hiding in the bathroom with chocolate. Yet here I am. That's a funny meme, right? However, it's the truth, and it's okay. No judgment. No judgment. I'm going to tell you a story. So when I had I still have a big blended family, but when they were younger, I would literally lock myself in the downstairs small bathroom with a candle, with my incense, and to give myself 15 minutes. That was how I did it, right? That was hello from Kentucky. That is how I did it. And that's okay. And so one of the things that I talk about when I give conversations about self-care, self and collective care, and I talk about, sometimes we forget that we can train our children to do a lot. Just like we train them to ride a bike, potty train, we can also train them to recognize when it's time for you to take time for yourself. Okay. So they knew when I would go into into the bathroom that it was my time, right? And that's okay. So if it's 15 minutes, I was a high school teacher. Let me give you another example. I was a high school teacher. And so when I would come home, now mind you, having done, taught 100 plus kids throughout the day. And then when I came home, I had another set of 5 children, right? So I said, okay, you all give me 30 minutes after I get off work. 30 minutes. So they knew that that was my time. That's self-care. How many of you do that? How many of you have taught your children or trained your children, nieces, nephews, whomever that lives with you, who you're caring for? Have you taught them how you take care of yourself? That's another question we'll get to in a moment. Next slide, please. So there might be some anxiety when you think about self-care. When you think about that, because, everything is a parent should do this, a mom should do that. I can't do this. There's something else I should be doing. The house needs to be clean, right? Or whatever that you come up with. So I ask you, why is self-care important? Why is self-care important? I think I gave you that a little bit earlier on. But why is your self-care important? Let's put it like that. Why is your self-care important? Hi from California. Thank you for being here. Why is your self-care important? You can put that in the comments. And before we go to this conversation, why is this important to talk about? And so I wanted to pause here because I said I am the self-care ritualist. What does that mean? Peace of mind. Absolutely, Jennifer. Absolutely. Why is her self-care important? To have peace of mind. Absolutely. So as the self-care ritualist, I talk about you and your self-care as a ritual. And when you think about rituals, what do you think about? It's something for me, and this is what I talk about in my self-care journal, it's a practice, a ritual that is grounded with your purpose, your meaning. What's the deeper meaning? And the way in which you carry out your self-care ritual. So, as I shared with you just a few moments ago, so I would light a candle, have my incense, and then retreat to the bathroom. That became my ritual. Just like when you are setting the mood, right? How do you set the mood for your ritual, right? Do you have certain music that you listen to get you there? Certain scents, right? What do you need to do that? Good morning from Phoenix. Thank you, Dr. Cynthia. Dr. Cynthia tells her self-care is important. It's not negotiable. It's an absolute necessity. I can feel it when I don't take care of myself. Sometimes I slip, but get right back to it. Absolute. That's wonderful. Giving yourself grace, right? Giving yourself grace in those times where you slip up, right? So that's so very important. So why is your self-care important? And if you have to think about that, then come back. That's okay. Do that. So I'm talking, and I want us to talk about being real. It's a lot as a parent, as a professional, as a grandparent, what if you're a caregiver, right? Being real with your feelings around self-care and being real with the fact that it is important to do your self-care. So I have an acronym. I love acronyms, y'all. And I love acronyms. I am an former English teacher, but I shouldn't say former. I'm still an English teacher. So I want you to remember this. So each of these next slides are going to help you to remember about self-care and being real. So the first is B. I want you to be intentional. Be intentional about your self-care. What do you mean, Dr. Falami? Well, there's 24 hours in the day. How can you be intentional about blocking some parts of your day, some part or parts of your day? So does that mean at lunch, if you have 30 minutes for a lunch, write that in your calendar. I'm going to take a 10 to 15 minute walk. Oftentimes, we schedule everybody's appointments, but not our own self-care appointment. And your self-care is very important, and it's a scheduled appointment that you should not cancel. And I typically don't like to say should, because that causes a lot of angst, right? However, your self-care is so important that you have to be intentional. So if you are one that has an electronic calendar, or if you have a daily planner, maybe it's in the morning that you roll over, or maybe you're still in the bed and you take time to meditate. Maybe you place your hands on your heart and to take deep breaths. Maybe it is writing in your journal before your feet hit the ground, but being very intentional. So that is the B that I want you to remember, to be intentional about your self-care, and that you should not cancel your self-care appointment. Next slide, please. Be aware. What do your children see you doing to take or not take care of yourself? I want to repeat that one more time. Be aware. What do your children see you doing to take or not take care of yourself? So I have this question in my self-care journal, because I have several prompts within my journal. And one of the prompts asks, what is the self-care legacy that you want to leave with your children? Do you want to have your children seeing you tire out all the time? My children, admittedly, and these questions come from my own experience. My children saw me on Sunday evenings on the couch, papers on the floor, passed out, tired because I'm grading papers, right? So think about it. What do your children see? And this is a question that you can come back to. You don't have to put this in the comment section. But what do they see you doing to take care or not take care of yourself? Right? So it's so important to teach your children to breathe, right? Taking deep breaths, going for a walk, right? Oftentimes, when children get upset, parents may say, be quiet, stop crying. How about take some deep breaths? Take some deep breaths, giving them this foundation, right? So that is one of the ways when you can begin to infiltrate self-care with your children. My children, and I'm glad to say this, my children have seen me run a marathon. My children have seen me do Zumba. My children have seen me create scrapbooks for them. My children have seen me now. I'm a power lifter. So they've seen me do that. And I'm saying that not to brag, but to share with you how I have evolved as a self-care ritualist, and how it's so very important that now my grandchildren see their grandmother doing these practices, right? So be aware of what your children see you doing or not doing to take care of yourself. Next slide. Rest and reflect. Rest is so very important. Some of you might be familiar with the NAP ministry, right? The sister who has created this wonderful platform talking about the importance of rest. And that, I'm telling you, for some of us who are A-types, that might be a little bit challenging. Now, I, for one, and I admittedly, I can't take a long nap during the day. However, and I have this on my phone, I have 30 minutes to rest. So my rest is sitting in the chair, or it might be lying down on the couch, but totally just resting our minds. So what does that look like? Because there's a difference between rest and sleep, right? So taking time to rest and then reflecting, right? So I love that, Ashley. I'm looking at, you said kids do what we do, not what we say. Absolutely. That's going back to be aware. Absolutely. Now, this QR code is not working and I'm only on one screen. So please, if you've hit the QR code, I can't see that. So ignore the QR code. But I think I was asking you if you take a nap during the day, right? How many of you take a nap? Or if you rest, what does that look like? And then reflecting. If you are a journaler, that's great. If you're not, I hope you can start to become a journaler, because reflecting on your day allows you really to process your feelings, right? Process your feelings for the day. And Jennifer talks about sitting still. Absolutely. That is a wonderful form of rest. And then Jennifer Boykin said on the weekend, she tries to take a nap. Doesn't always happen. I get it. Understood. Right. But that's okay. Understanding that you know that this is a important practice, or a ritual, as I like to say, is very good. All right. All right. Next slide, please. There's the reflect in your journals. So this is actually my calendar here, my calendar, and then my actual self-care journal. And so I write out, again, rest. I write out where it's my self-care time. Next slide, please. So E is for establish your self-care ritual. If you already have one, wonderful. When you think of ritual, I want you to think of what are those 3 to 5 activities that nourish, nurture your mind, body, and spirit. What are those 3 to 5 activities that nourish, nurture your mind, your body, and your spirit? So when you think about that, then you begin to create this ritual around those activities, right? So maybe it is, maybe one of those activities is meditating. So maybe you have to get your incense first to set the place, set the mood, right? For meditating. Or maybe it's setting the lighting. How do you establish this ritual around these activities that nourish, nurture your mind, body, and spirit, right? So that's so very important. So that's a different take on just doing it, because I believe that it's so very important that having something, a ritual that's sustainable. Oftentimes, you know that in January, you know what happens in January, right? Everyone makes these resolutions. They make these things, these promises. And then 3 months later or so, what happens? I invite you to become a self-care ritualist and considering your self-care as a ritual. Next slide, please. So part of being a self-care ritualist is affirming yourself. Affirming yourself. So there are times when you may have some low moments. You might struggle with self-confidence, self-esteem, right? Affirming yourself. And if any of you are familiar with affirmations, you know where I'm going here, right? Affirmations remind you of who you are, or remind you or encourage you to be what you said that you're going to be. Affirming yourself is a form of self-care because it will get you over the hump, right? It will get you over the hump. So next slide, please. So I want you to do this. You can do this on your own. You don't have to put this in the chat, but this is a prompt for you. I am. When you think of who you are, I am what? And I will what? And I know. These are starter affirmations. I actually have created an affirmation deck. When I was going through, you hear me say through, a process, a very challenging time period in my life. I had to remind myself who my mama told me I was, my grandmother, my daddy told me, and who my source reminds me who I am, right? So I had to create these affirmations. That is a form of self-care. So I am brilliant. That could be one of your affirmations. I am an effective listener. I am a, a good spirit. Whatever that is that resonates with you, right? One of the affirmations that I said to myself, had to remind myself, I am whole just the way I am. That is one of the affirmations, right? How many of you can resonate with that? I am whole just the way I am. Another one of the affirmations that I have is the size on the label does not define my beauty. I will master this particular craft. I will. What is your I will? And then what if you know? I am worthy, Aaron says. Yes. I will pass the test. I know that this job is for me. I am a leader. This is self-care, y'all. This is self-care. And finding little post-it notes to write this down, put them on the mirror, put them on your dashboard, put it where you can remind yourself and be intentional about that, right? Be intentional. Okay, I know this is going to be a difficult meeting, so I'm going to take some time and to reflect on my affirmation. I will prosper in my endeavors. Come on, Jennifer. Yes, absolutely. That's self-care. And then what happens when you do this? You share this with your children. How about create affirmations for your children with your children and tell them that this is about self-care? Now, I realize that sometimes you might not be able to come up with many affirmations. So ask somebody in your circle, someone that's close to you. Ask them, who do you think I am? What do you like about me? What are my strengths? Right? And that can then guide you into filling in this blank. Next slide. Woo! Let go. What do you need to let go of? What do you need to let go of? Is it the expectation of someone else? Is it letting go of what? What is it that you need to let go of? Letting go of perfectionism. Letting go of being always busy. Letting go of always being busy. I'm going to say that again, right? Letting go of negativity. Letting go of the need to please others. That is self-care. That is self-care. So, next slide, please. So, when you think about being real, I want you to think about, and this is actually an app. This is a social media app called Be Real. And this is meant to show people in their act without filters. So doing something, being real in the moment, and not worrying about, I got to put on a filter, screen, put on lips, all of that, right? And so I want you to remember about being real and what this means. So being real means, again, being intentional about your self-care. How are you going to make time in the 24 hours, whether it's 10 minutes. And remember, you don't have to spend a long time period per se, because some people think, oh, I got to go spend 2 to 3 hours in the gym or something like that. No, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So the question might be, how do you keep your mind still? Thinking about meditating, right? And that might be one of your intentional rituals. How do you keep your mind still, right? First of all, I'd like you to think about your mind, no judgment, okay? Give yourself permission to be non-judgmental, because it's natural for your thoughts to come. So what I always tell folks to do is, when you see, if you're meditating and you see thoughts come, I say smile, give thanks for the thoughts, and watch them move. Let them kind of visualize those thoughts moving out of your brain. But what's most important is to know that it's natural. It's natural for these thoughts to come. Just don't place any judgment like, oh, I can't do this. I can't keep my mind still. Then go back to, and then here's another thing, is to go back to the breath, because a part of the meditating is the breath, right? So focusing on the breath. Okay, let me go back to the breath. So if it's either watching your thoughts go by, whatever works for you, watching your thoughts go by, right? Then, okay, let me go focus on the breath. Deep breaths, and just focus on the breath. So that's so very important. So again, being intentional about your self-care. The other is being aware of what your children, all of those who are around you, what do they see you doing or not doing to take care of yourself? Right? Oftentimes, when folks are getting older, we think about what legacy do we want to leave for our children, grandchildren, etc. What self-care legacy do you want to leave? So be aware of what that is. All right. Then we have the real, rest and reflect. Resting can be just sitting in a chair for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe it's sleeping. Okay. I saw someone who is actually in the chat said they were part of the nap ministry. Wonderful, right? Reflecting on your day, or just reflecting on how you're feeling. Many of us are so connected to social media, right? We're just so not in touch with our feelings. That too is self-care. I actually have a journaling session where we get together in community and journal, right? And that is a part of that reflection, ending the day, right? And talking, really getting it out, all right? And then we talked about, how do you create these self-care rituals, establishing your self-care ritual, right? That means you have to know what nourishes and nurtures your mind, body, and spirit. Feel free to put any questions. We're going to be taking some questions here in just a moment. So feel free to put them in the comment section. So again, establishing that self-care ritual. And then affirming yourself, your children, creating this affirmations for them, right, is a form of self-care. And then L, what are you going to let go of? Now, I'm not saying you create this laundry list, because then that could be a lot of anxiety that comes with that. But what are you going to let go of? Maybe one thing, maybe this moment, I'm going to let go of worrying about what somebody else says. Okay. I'm going to let go of what you fill in the blank. That is keeping it real and being real, right? So think about that. This is what this means about being real. Next slide, please. So I would love for you to connect with me. I'm on IG at the _ self-care ritualist. If you take your camera to this screen here and take a picture of the QR code, you can follow me there, as well as on my website, which is drfalami.com, but you'll find that information out on my social media as well. These are the kind of conversations that I love to have and love to share about the importance of self and collective care, and that it's a ritual and it is sustainable and it goes beyond the bubble baths, the trips. All of these things that were mentioned today are free to you to invest in yourself. So I'm going to take questions now at this time. Erin, if you'd like to join us back here.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Falami. I mean, you filled us with so much information, and I love that you really defined what self-care means.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, a lot of people think about it being in the way of like, I have to do massages or go to the spa.
Mm-hmm.
But just the simple fact of breathing, just taking the time to breathe and to be still and do what nurtures you. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And I'm curious though, like, how did you come up with the concept of creating a ritual? Like, why a ritual?
Yeah, it's because I grew up in Catholic schools and it was something about the rituals that really took me to a different place of presence. And, the ritual of lighting the candle and the incense and the meaning behind that, right? And the genuflect and all of the rituals that the Catholic, church typically has, and other churches as well. And I was so drawn to that. And then I'm a member of a sorority. And we also have some we have rituals, and I love them. And I'm like, what if, and I knew that I was doing rituals at home. And I'm like, what if people began to think of their self-care in a very ritualistic way? How much more would that be sustainable than just, oh, I'm doing self-care? I'm right. And so, and I say that very flippantly because I have been in conversation with folks who are like, self-care, I'm over this, right? I'm here to offer another perspective, which I believe is more sustainable for this, what I call the self-care ritualist movement. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
looks like we have some other questions from our audience. And Ashley is asking, do you have any advice for when self-care starts to feel obsessive or excessive? She says she goes on morning walks every day, but sometimes feels it's another escape from what I should be focused on.
Thank you, Ashley. That's a wonderful question. First of all, very wonderful that you are going on this path of walking every day, because we know the benefits of walking at least 30 minutes a day to our body. What I'd like to say is, how do you balance both the walking and offering this reflection? Here's where I want to offer you the reflection, right? So as you are walking, how do you process your feelings? Do you maybe take your voice memo if you have your phone and to use it instead of an escape? So maybe you spend time journaling, either audio, or you can write them. So it's like the both and I get it. I mean, it's great to have that walking time and recognize that it could be a form of escape. Then put some emphasis to reflecting, right? Reflecting in the evening, or maybe reflecting at the same time. Maybe spend about 20 minutes getting your walk in, like, I need to get this off me, and then say, okay, here's what I'm feeling. Maybe something comes up while you're walking, right? Like, and then be able to process that on your phone. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you. And then Kiki has a question. Can you expand on collective care?
Yes, yes. So collective care is really the process of not only taking care of yourself, but those that are in your circle, right? Being mindful of the ways in which, and this is not another form of caring for someone in a way of being overbearing, but just checking in, tapping in, being very intentional about the care of others. So, hey, what does that look like? That looks like, hey, I'm going to, maybe focus on this particular person. She's a good friend of mine. And I want to just care for her, checking in on her feelings. How you doing? What's going on? So it's really being intentional about the care of not only yourself, but others, feelings wise, physically, making sure that all is okay, right? And not just yourself. Mhm.
Okay, great.
What
Well,
other
that's great.
questions do you have?
Any other questions, guys?
And thank you all for really engaging in the comment section. I really appreciate that. It helps me as well. Yes.
Well, I guess there's not any other questions, but if you guys do have some additional questions, feel free to put them in the comment section on as you're watching this live or on the replay on YouTube, and we can address them there. And I do want to just really thank Dr. Falami for sitting with us today. Like I said, she really defined what self-care means. And, self-care is so crucial to achieving good health, both mentally and physically. And it's such a struggle for most of us to do it. So that's why I thought this was such an important topic, even though the whole series was based on meal planning. We needed to address self-care because that needs to happen in order for us to focus on other areas of our health in our life. We got to feed our spirits and our soul and make sure that's right.
And can I say something, Erin? I said this earlier. Meal planning is very much self-care.
Yeah,
it really
absolutely.
is. And if we think about that, because when I meal prep, yes, it might take 3 hours for me. However, for me, that is a form of really being intentional.
Yes.
About what I am preparing for myself, nutrient-rich foods that I'm preparing for myself and my family, and recognize, and let me talk about that. This is so on point. So it is a ritual for me. I usually have my music on. I have a glass of wine.
Yes.
I do. Have a glass of wine. I have my music, right? I have my containers, set out. So it is a ritual. So if you think of it like that, that is a self-care ritual, right? So for sure, absolutely.
I mean, it's something that is feeding your body physically,
Physically,
right?
absolutely.
And then you kind of bring in the mental aspect of it as well by kind of having those things available. But I'm with you on that glass of wine because and the music.
And
I mean,
the music.
because you gotta have the right feels when you're doing this meal planning.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you got something that's getting you pumped up, it's
exactly.
like, okay, this is not so bad.
Absolutely. I have a little Spotify list. So if you have a Spotify playlist for your meal planning, do that, right?
Yeah.
And I love what Ashley says, Jennifer, when we are strong and take care on our self-care, we are better people by absolutely.
Yes.
Body, mind, and soul.
Body, mind, and soul. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you got to feed that in order to have the energy and motivation to keep our body healthy, right? You got to have that mental capacity to do that.
Absolutely.
No, this was such a good conversation. And I love, and we were talking about meal planning. So I'm doing a meal planning challenge in the BWHI app. So anybody out there that's interested in learning more, and I was definitely going to be talking about doing some of those things as singing. And I mean, I sing at the top of my lungs, while I'm doing the meal planning because it makes it more fun and engaging.
Yes, absolutely.
But if anybody's interested in doing that, just download the BWHI app and you can join the community called Challenge Accepted, and then follow the instructions to join the app, to join the challenge. And that begins on Monday, September 26th. All right. So, again, Dr. Falami, I love having you here. I love talking to you.
Yes.
And I appreciate you taking the time to teach us that we matter.
Yes.
That we are worthy. Yes. We are worthy of all of this. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I so much appreciate it. And I hope that you all will continue to be real and pass the message about being real to your rest of your family.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And until we meet again, as they take care of ourselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you so much.
You're
Take care, everyone.
Bye.